Everyone's got a new toy.
You look like the Mandalorian.
Yeah, no, I'm looking cool. You know, ready for our feature together, you know? Guys, this thing is just ridiculous. It's 320 brake.
Come on, George, hurry up, you can't afford it. So welcome to GT Motorcycles down here in Plymouth. And today we're going to have a look at motorbikes, obviously. Moving a little bit away from the car scene, and we're going to look at things that you've asked us in the comments in the car videos. And I'm going to introduce you to this absolutely awesome piece of machinery here. And the rider, who is Mike, the director down here at GT Motorcycles, it's his bike. He's the one that has done nearly 250 mile an hour on this machine. So later on in the video, we're going to actually talk about the modifications that have been done to this bike to get it able to do that kind of speed on the track, not on the road. And now I'm just going to introduce you to Mike, and Mike's going to tell you a little bit about himself and his history with bikes.
Certainly, my name is Mike Granger. I'm a director at GT Motorcycles. Started in business back in 1978 originally, and I've progressed through the years. I've been competing all my life, or certainly since the age of 18. I still do competitive sport now. I'm now 70 years old, but still enjoy it. This is my Hayabusa Turbo, which I've done some extremely good speeds on in a mile, 249.910.
Madness.
I broke the record in 2012 in both directions, because the record has to be done in both directions. So that was the last time I broke a record on that, but I've broke many records since. It's quite a handful. It's got a lot of power. It's close to 700 horsepower on the rear wheel.
I've got my friend Macaulay, who's kindly come over because I wanted to talk to him about the different things he's experienced having his bike, but more importantly, dealing with security, because that's something that you've really struggled with, and I think that you've probably got some things to offer. So let's go inside, let's find a similar bike that he had, and we'll get talking about that. Right guys, because we're in the main showroom now, I think we should use a bike similar to Macaulay's as example. So let's get him on and hear what he's got to say. Right, Cauley, so this bike is actually a very similar colour to the one that you used to have.
Certainly is, yeah.
Please tell me the experiences you went through in regards to having a bright yellow bike, be it yours only a 125, or the same. What did you learn from?
The first thing is honestly the colour. It does catch my eye, probably catches a lot of people's eye.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And that's the good and bad thing, it's like Jekyll and Hyde really. The main thing that I did get that I do want you guys to learn about is the brake disc lock. If you don't have one already, you go get yourself one. It saved my bike 3 times from getting stolen.
So they just go through the disc down here in the front wheel?
Yeah, just go through there and literally just locks on the other side, and that's as simple as that.
For sure. Now you've mentioned to me off camera that being bright yellow is obviously, it's like a jewellery to a magpie, isn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously if you do live in an area that has maybe streets outside, you might not want to have a brightly coloured yellow bike parked up overnight. So guys, I quickly interrupt today's video just to let you know I don't want you to think that yellow bikes aren't a viable option. While they might be very obvious towards a thief, they are also much more visible on the UK road. So bear that in mind. While it might not be exciting having a yellow bike because it's going to attract the wrong attention, it'll also attract the right attention on the road because you're more likely to be seen. So bear that in mind, guys. Anyway, let's get back to today's video. So Cauley, would you say to the younger viewers that if you were to go ahead and buy a motorbike again and go through the whole process one more time, would you suggest a more stealth colour option than bright yellow?
Oh, definitely guys. I wouldn't go through the same thing again with the same bike, honestly. From my experience, what I've gained from it, I would actually get a stealthier looking bike. If you've got a garage, you can store it away. That's beautiful. Go get whatever colour you want. Get a neon rainbow. For
sure. Now, Cauley, I appreciate you coming last minute from work. It's about time you got back to work and stopped intervening with my YouTube videos. Now, guys, let's go and meet Nikki, who is in the clothing department up above the Honda showroom. So, Nikki, the first port of call is to definitely introduce you to the camera. I'm now up in the clothing department here at GT Motorcycles, and you are chief in charge up here, everything road safety when it comes to clothing.
Absolutely.
So yeah, run us through everything we need to know. If I pass my test tomorrow, I'm on a budget, what do I need, what would you recommend, and then maybe finish off by showing us some of the expensive stuff?
Absolutely.
How does that sound?
That sounds perfect.
We may as well go over there then and start with motorcycle helmets.
Okay, for me.
Perfect. Right, Nikki, you're going to need to grab the tape measure because this big head of mine needs measuring.
Okay.
What are we guessing? I'm going to guess at in the 60s somewhere. What are you saying?
Super large.
Super large. I'm going to go with a double XL. Massive noggin, tiny brain.
You are correct. Double XL.
Have you got one that big?
How many inches?
Is this a man's measuring?
Well, so you have to round it up to 70. There we go, makes sense. So you mentioned earlier it's not always about price.
No.
That
not at all.
determines whether it's a good helmet.
Yeah, and very
Okay.
much on your facial shape as well.
Cool.
So it does vary between brands and styles within the brands as well.
Awesome. Leaving it to the professionals, guys. Hopefully we can get something to go around my
Yeah.
very
obviously
empty
we've
but
got this,
massive skull.
Beautiful paper balaclava. There's a safety point for trying on, certainly in these uncertain times.
You need a bin bag to get over his head.
There we go, so you just pop that one on.
Oh yes. Owen is off camera laughing at me. What a lovely man.
So this is a Ducini helmet. So this is sort of what we would call a budget helmet, just to get you on the road. But it does meet with all the safety standards as it has to for us to be able to sell it in the UK.
It does look pretty cool though. For a budget helmet it does look nice.
Yeah. Grab hold of the straps when you pop them on. Put it nice and wide because this gap here is smaller because it's designed to fit around your neck. And then roll it from the back of your head onto your face and adjust it into position. Okay, have you got it? There we go, just pull him down.
You really...
Need a bigger helmet.
Now she knows her stuff.
Yeah. So instantly I can see that one isn't going to fit you at all.
Right, this is going to be a funny scene. Take it on.
So pull the straps nice and wide.
Right, my nose. I want it. There we go.
You need it?
I'll do it.
There we go.
Christ almighty. Honestly. Right guys, helmet take two.
This one.
It's a bigger helmet this time.
This-
Ooh.
So slightly different features. So this one is also done up with a double D ring. And you also have an internal
Double D.
sun visor as another sort of updated option to
Wow.
the older version of just
High-tech
having
spec there.
darker visor on that one.
What was the extra bit that you mentioned that was in this helmet?
So drop down sun visor. So on a day like today, nice and sunny, you can flip the visor down and
Whoa.
it just takes the glare off whilst
Techie.
riding.
Look at that. Whoop, whoop. Anyway, she mentioned pull them apart and then from the back of the head pull down. Is that
Yeah,
right?
that's it. Pull them down a little bit more. That's better. Because what you don't want is your helmet to be sitting near your eye socket, so you need it down where your cheeks are. As you can see, or I can see, and you can probably feel a nice little bit of pressure to your cheeks, but not excessive. It's fitting just about a ½ inch above your eyebrows, which is also where you need it to be. So I'm just going to hold the front of the helmet, and what I want you to do is just move your head from side to side. There's no movement coming from that helmet at all, is there? You're taking my hands with you. So everything touching the top of the helmet inside,
Yes.
yeah?
Where is it?
Are you looking for the sun visor?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to the base, that's it, you got it. There we go.
Huh? Whoa. Huh?
Someone's got a new
Ooh.
toy.
You look like the Mandalorian.
Yeah, no, I'm looking cool. You know, ready for our feature together, you know?
Whilst we are here, Nikki, I've just found this behind me. Now, on the thing it says not legal for road use.
Yep.
Can you just explain about tinted visors on the helmets?
Yeah.
Is that the same as the exhaust on your RS?
Yeah, so obviously helmets come with either, you can buy dark visors or coloured visors. We as a company have to advise that they aren't for road legal use because it is a safety feature. You can buy them, but we will not fit them to the helmet for you. It's down to personal choice, but these are mostly sort of for people that would go on track, etc. To ride with this during the evenings or the darker evenings is going to restrict your vision. This is why most helmets these days are now fitted with these drop-down sun visor as an option, so you can control the level of light that you see through the helmet and through the visor.
And you look like the Mandalorian.
I just don't have the combat skills. Two helmets, trying on helmets.
Nikki, often we see riders out in Bermuda shorts and flippies with no gloves and things, and it just makes me go, oh no, because I've seen it when it all goes wrong and it's really not nice. So if you were just starting out with your moped or your 125, having passed your CBT, what sort of clothing would you start with? What would be a good budget entry level protective clothing for top half, bottom half, gloves and boots?
Okay, yeah, we've got Ducini range, which is what we would class as our entry level. So the jackets come with shoulder and elbow armours as standard. The jacket is also tested to a CE safety rating now, which is how the motorcycle clothing is starting to come through from the manufacturers. So that will get you a nice sort of all-rounder, keep you warm, keep you dry, anything perfect for commuting or just a bit of fun on a Sunday afternoon. To go with the jacket, we do a trouser as well. So these come in starting about £80, so not overly expensive. Same again, they'll come with hip and knee armour as standard, so you're going to get all the protection you need from those.
Nikki, we've looked at the standard kind of entry-level motorbike kit, but I've also noticed this style, which is a little bit more trendy, and for people that are commuting, is it?
Absolutely, yeah. Obviously designed for, say, as you said, the commuter, or just the young lad that's out with his mates, but wants to have the full protection, but doesn't want to look overkill in the full bike gear that we just looked at.
So this has still got all the padding on it that the other stuff's got, is it?
Absolutely, yeah. Shoulder and elbow armour is standard. Whether you can pick this up on the camera, the silver detailing to the front of the jacket is actually a full reflective. So as the lights from cars hit it, it will beam back, so you haven't got the overkill as well with the fluorescent, which quite a lot of the youngsters don't want to go with.
So coming from the cycling world, I know that if I fall off my bike, generally the first part of me that hits the ground is probably the palms of my hand, because it's a natural reaction to put that out as you go towards the ground. So people overlook gloves as being that essential part of safety equipment. Would you say that was fair?
Yes, absolutely.
So if we looked at an entry-level glove, what would we be looking at to pay?
Looking at anything from about £35 to £45 for a nice entry-level glove.
That's not really a lot of money, is it, when you think of, you know, how much that can protect you?
Absolutely, yeah.
So before Nikki takes George over and shows him the really expensive leathers, let's have a little look at footwear. Now, Nikki, why is footwear so important for a bike rider?
Footwear, unlike normal trainers, is designed to do a job. It is a safety feature, and some people do overlook this quite a lot. The main feature of a motorcycle boot is you have a shank that runs through the sole of the shoe, so if you were involved in an accident, it will keep your foot in place, less likely to have any broken bones.
And that stops your foot from going the wrong way, does it?
It stops your foot from breaking back, but it will bend forward to allow you to be able to walk in them as you would a normal shoe.
Okay, and what sort of price range do they start at then?
This particular boot is an entry-level boot, starts at £80, and like with everything else in the motorcycle world, it goes up to a few £100 depending on the style and the features within the boot.
But even 80 quid, you know, we pay £80 for a pair of trainers these days, but a pair of trainers isn't going to stop your foot kind of going like that under you, is it, in the event of an accident? So really, £80 for a pair of decent motorbike boots is well worth paying, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Right, Nikki, I think it's about time we look at some of this expensive kit. Not that I can afford it, but yeah, I mean, what does it offer, and what kind of prices are we looking at?
Well, price-wise, we're looking at anything from £700 up to £2,000 or £3,000, depending on your budget, which we know yours isn't great, so I'm not sure if it's what you're looking for.
That's a bit mean.
Most people tend to buy the one-piece track suit for track days these days, rather than road riding, but it is down to that personal preference.
Wait, what do you want?
That's your budget.
Well, just because it's on sale?
Yeah, but it doesn't say Jack Wills, but...
Oh, you're so horrible to me.
We can Sharpie that on if we need to.
What, Jack Wills?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the average person that will kind of buy this stuff, obviously they're gonna be in a position they can afford it. But as you mentioned off camera, this stuff is probably more designed towards sort of track days and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, obviously I can't afford it, but I just thought I'd ask and show them what expensive equipment might look like. What's the actual brand name? I can't pronounce that.
These are Dainese, and then these are Alpine Stars.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let's go downstairs and check out all the mods on Mike's bike. Honestly, the stuff in here is just incredible.
I have to say I'm not a massive bike fan either, but I can see why people love them.
Well, you know, if you were actually brave and you drove a fast car, you might be able to appreciate where these guys come from.
Yeah.
I feel like the same people that drive motorbikes would have skateboarded as a kid. They're all brave people. No?
Yeah, I didn't skateboard either, I wasn't allowed one.
You weren't allowed?
In fact, I don't think skateboards were even invented when I was a kid. Mike, we're coming to the end of the video. Thank you so much for having us here today at GT Motorcycles, showing us around everything motorbikes here and all the safety equipment that you've got upstairs. And, you know, hopefully that's been useful to people. But at the start of the video, we did say that we would talk through some of the modifications that have been done to this absolutely amazing machine here to make it do the speeds that you've done on it. So out of the factory, How much brake horsepower does it run through the rear wheel?
On a standard one, you'd be looking around about 180 to 190 horsepower.
And it only weighs about, what, 400 pounds, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't weigh an awful lot, does it? So that's an awful lot of power through that rear wheel for something that doesn't weigh very much. So it must be pretty quick. So a quarter of a mile, what would it do a quarter of a mile in?
What, a standard bike?
Standard bike, yeah.
Standard bike would probably be mid-10s, 10.5 seconds.
Okay, and what does it do now?
Well, this is not really built for quarters, but it'll, I mean, if you could keep the front wheel down, it would be probably seven seconds.
7 seconds.
Yeah.
It's pretty quick then.
Yeah.
So I guess that's part of the danger of, you know, having all that power, is that the more power you're putting through, you know, at the back, the more the front's going to lift up. Is that correct?
Without a doubt, yes. Yes, people have tried lengthening the bikes, lowering the bikes. With top speeds, if you lengthen it too much, it just spins the back wheel.
Yeah.
If you're building a bike for a quarter of a mile, you would lengthen it. And some people even use wheelie bars to stop it picking the wheel up. I mean, this particular bike, the year before last, I did 215.6 on the back wheel through the speed trap at the end of the mile. And that was quite exciting.
So basically, you know, the modifications that you're making to the bike are going to affect other aspects of how the bike handles and things like that, aren't they? So that's something that people have got to take into consideration when they're modifying the bike, is that it can affect other aspects. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, without a doubt. If you take this particular bike, the chassis is pretty well standard.
Yeah.
Standard rear shock, standard forks, although it is slightly lowered, and I do actually strap the front end down a little bit to bring it down a little bit more.
Yeah, so it's about balancing the modifications that you do to make the whole bike work for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Gearing, obviously, you have to change the gearing because it would just rev out at 180 mile an hour, whatever it would be in a standard bike.
So I think it's really important to get that message across to the viewers that, you know, changing one thing and modifying one thing on the bike can change other aspects to it. And, you know, just changing, you know, making that bike faster and putting more power through the rear wheel will have the effect on the front of the bike. So you have to then counteract that by doing other modifications in order for it to handle that power. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. There's various things. For example, the engine has to be stronger. You can't just put a turbo onto a standard. Well, you could do, but you certainly can get this power.
Yeah.
With this sort of power, I've got Carrillo rods, lower compression ratio, because it's got a big Borg-Warner turbo on it.
Yeah.
And that's what produces the power. And it doesn't run on pump fuel either. It runs on max NOS, which is 119 octane.
Right.
If you use the standard fuel, it would just melt the pistons.
So that's effectively race fuel.
It is race fuel, yeah.
Okay, which is quite expensive in itself, isn't it?
It's works out about £7 a litre.
Ouch.
Yeah, and you can imagine at those sort of speeds, it tends to drink it a little bit.
Yeah, we complained about putting super unleaded into our RSs. Mike, it's been fantastic meeting you today. Thank you so much for talking through this bike. People, please put in the comments underneath if you want to see more about this bike and you want to hear more about the modifications that Mike's done on it to get 700 brake horsepower through the rear wheel of a motorbike. Put it in the comments. We can come back and we can look at doing that for you. But for now, thank you so much for getting to the end of the video. I hope you've learned from it, and we'll see you soon.